Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Nitin Vaze from SLEEK Boards. I come from a company from Pune, and I have 31 years of experience in dealing with panel products. Right from the stage, almost, the industry started growing in this country. Today I'm going to talk about one yet very important missing aspect which is often ignored by the furniture and the kitchen industry is the correct use of the panel products for the success of their industry. Can you switch on? Understanding panel products. The line is very simple, but there is a great deal of misunderstanding about the panel products. Why do I say it? Fundamentals. All boards look the same from the outside. If you see, there are several types of boards here. If you have to look at them from the visual aspect, they all look the same. But a great amount of technology lies within, and they are not the same. We repeat this slide again just to emphasize that what looks the same is actually not the same. And one of the reasons is that the industry, the people who have come into the industry have acquired very less knowledge about the options which are available to them for their usage. Manufacturers in India are also offering grades which are more of commercial in nature. Some call it economy, commercial, silver, golden, platinum, and so on and so forth. But nobody is addressing the crux that you need a different product for a different end use. If, for example, you have to use a standard MDF for a deep routing, naturally the finishing is not going to be good. You are going to spend endless hours in sanding and then taking it up for PVC membrane or lacquering and so on and so forth. Also, a lot of people are talking about water resistance properties in particle board and MDF, and finally land up using plywood. Right from 1985, plywood has been one of the major panel processed materials. And all over the world, particle boards and MDF have replaced plywood in enormous quantities that now in Europe, only 5% of the total panel production is in plywood. And particle boards and MDF are constituting 90-95% of the total production and panel processing. Why in India it is so the case that we still are on one of the oldest man-made materials, that is plywood, and not adventing fiercely into the field of particle boards and MDF. Improper use of materials in the initial stages of our country have led to the concept particle boards are no good, MDF is no good. We still want to believe on plywood, but in reality it is not so the case. There is trillions of dollars of investment which has gone into manufacturing a good quality board. And the board does not come by itself at the end product. There is a great deal of engineering aspects which start in its manufacturing right from the refinements in the chip preparation, the resins which are used, the dosages of resin, the density profile, what are the additives that you are putting in it, and All these things finally lead to the manufacture of the correct type of product. I have here a product which is a higher density profile with MDF. It is called a deep routing grade. If you will compare the routing on this MDF, it will be almost like a finished product. If I use an ordinary MDF, you will see a lot of hair-like appearances which will be on the screen. Both are MDF, but one is tailored for ordinary applications and say like for lamination. But for specific end-use applications, for deep routing, you need a deep routing grade of MDF. Formaldehyde emissions in India are unknown for most of the time. We have so many classifications the world is going into. One of the important aspects that we have to keep in mind is that our parents and the young ones stay at home. The customers, parents and children stay at home, and they need an healthy, green, breathing material which does not emit formaldehyde emission which is beyond the threshold hazardous exposure level. Formaldehyde has been classified as a known carcinogenic material, and a good panel product should have the least of the emissions. In India, unfortunately, we do not have any emission standard which controls formaldehyde. We have emission standards for emissions from our automobiles, from chimneys, from all kinds of exhausts, but no emission norms for what comes out of the furniture. So we start with the topmost. It is unrated E level. Then is an E2, which allows for between 8 milligrams and 20 milligrams of release from an oven dry board. Then we see the even standard, which has got below 8 milligrams by 100 milligrams of the board. This is the level which is allowed for indoor use by the American Council, by the European Council, and even now it has been accepted in China. If you need a safe board which breathes acceptable level of formaldehyde, and being in the industry which catering to the furniture which are going to be used indoors, we at least need to target for E1 level. The Japanese have gone way ahead. The Koreans have gone way ahead. The Americans have gone way ahead. And they are now following E0, F4 star, and CARP2, which are even more lower to the lower level to the formaldehyde which exists in nature. There is formaldehyde everywhere. In every tree there is formaldehyde. So you reach a stage where it is at par. Even after addition of resins, it comes to the par. And then you get these lower emission levels. So just to make a note of it, E1 is the most minimum level that is allowed for indoor use. Another common fallacy is to not select the correct type of board for the end use in which it is dedicated to be used. Lot of imports are happening in India today, but they are all belonging to the first category, which is not meant for furniture use. It is called the P1 level. These boards are for general vertical applications and not for furniture use. So anybody who wants to make a furniture has to make sure that the boards that he processes in his industry are at least P2. I have heard people complaining, particle board is no good, MDF is no good, the shelves are sagging by its own weight. Forget about adding anything and usage, and I want to go back to plywood. Why would a customer have to complain this if you were using the right type of materials? P3 is the next grade. You use it for non-load bearing in a humid application, and so on and so forth. We have different types of gradations. We have to be aware that such gradations exist in the market, and depending upon what product you are planning to make or target in the marketplace has to meet these criteria. Properties, you can see the bending strength, which for example is the load bearing category. It increases as the P level increases. The internal bond increases. The modulus of elasticity increases. So these are the different categories of the panel products which you need to tailor into your production systems for making the correct type of product and longevity of the product. Some of the examples that we are not aware, we think only commercial, but there are technical differences in different types of MDF, thin MDF, say for up to 6 mm. You have the standard, you have the moisture resistant, you have fire retardant. There are different MDFs which are used for curving applications with a very high modulus of elasticity. Then you have E0, which is the Californian Air Resources Board level. You can also make MDF without addition of any formaldehyde and for surface printing. So I suppose, did we know up till now that there are so many different types of MDF for its technical usage? In the medium thickness range, again, there are so many different types of MDF which are available. For each one is targeted to an end use. If you use one for another, it's not going to blend very properly. Some people asked me, I want to make a table which is 1 hour fire retardant. Now, that kind of a thing is not possible in furniture. Any fire retardant MDF or particle board is meant to have properties with very low smoke generation and very low splintering of fire or crackling and splintering of fire. These are the key properties which are expected from the panel. We have different for lacquering, routing. We have colored MDF, which even if you do a deep routing, the color of the MDF all through the board will be the same. You have special MDF for doing a molding. You have a special molding for light and ultralight vertical applications where strength is not key. Today, the technology has advanced so much that you can have an hybrid board which has got an MDF face with a particle board core. So you get the advantages of an MDF face. For example, in case of a short cycle lamination, where you don't see the swelling of particle thicknesses on the face, but at the same time, you're getting the benefit of the price on the particle board core on it. Because of the 3-layered structure using the MDF face and a core of particle, you can even have a shuttering grade material. In particle board, you have a shuttering equivalent particle board. You can make fire doors with for 30 minutes or 45 minutes using a particle board. So these are different grades of particle boards which are available in the market. Again, in particle boards, you have all these different grades. Each one is targeted for an end use in mind. For the kitchen, since this is a subject which relates to all of you here, the most ideal long life items would be a moisture resistant range as an MDF, high moisture resistant, or an HDF, Some people are talking about going into lacquering grade. So nowadays the technologies in melamine have so advanced. I have got a sample to show you. This is a lacquered melamine board. And you start up with a basic board which is pre-laminated, but with certain additives which go into it. And then when you are doing a lacquering on it, you are adding the gloss levels to it. In a normal pre-laminated board, you cannot paint or put lacquer because there is no adhesion. And it will be just like a paint, you scratch it and it will come out. But if you use certain specific quality pre-laminated boards, it has a built-in primer additives put in the impregnation process and the lamination. So when you're doing the lacquering, you can get a very high gloss finished paper. And this is nothing but a pre-laminated board, and that's how you get it. For the hospital industry, nowadays you also get antibacterial pre-laminated boards on MDF and particle boards, and segment which is here up to contained only in high pressure laminates. You get high pressure laminates which are antibacterial, but even these technologies have been now adapted, and anybody one wants to specialize or diversify into a different niche market for making hospital furniture, these kind of technologies are open. Commercial comparison, if we go even with an imported pre-laminated board, a particle board which is P3, which is moisture resistant, and with a low formaldehyde emission, even at Delhi, will not cost you more than 70 rupees a square feet, or an MDF board 90, or an HDF with 1,000 kilos density, a 13 millimeter, can make a very sleek kitchen which will cost 170 rupees a square feet. Today, we are engaged in using plywood, where the plywood itself for a BWR grade 18 mm will cost about 90. Your pasting two-side laminates will cost about 25 rupees, and with the glue and labor another 20. If we add all these things, using an engineered panel will still give you a cost saving of about 50% in the finished product comparison, with no fear of delamination, savings in labor, faster delivery period, clubbed with the low formaldehyde for the healthy panel usage for internal use. And to conclude, with the good quality machines, good manpower, good software, you also need good raw materials to make a good brand equity and sustain the operations in the market. The panel product market is becoming like a Chinese supply market. You get what you pay for. I have never come across a businessman who has gone to China and come back without striking a deal. But when he gets the product, he realizes that this is not what I meant to get. When he will question the supplier, he will say, my standard quality is for $100. You wanted a 50% discount, so I gave you, but then you get 50% of the quality of material. Unfortunately, these things have even practiced into India, where quality is equated with price. Obviously, it doesn't come free. So when we are doing bargaining on any raw materials, we have to be doing a responsible purchasing. We can't be asking a supplier to give prices which are unhealthy, not viable commercially, because finally, nobody is going to run your business at their cost. They have to make compromises somewhere to be able to afford your dictates and demands. Now we have a big mushrooming of markets with e-retailers, big furniture time, but we have to be very conscientious that we are doing responsible purchasing from all our suppliers. If not, then I have seen furniture where you pull the handle very strongly, the handle is ripped out and come in hand. Why does it happen? Why are we pushing so much? We should be aware that quality has a price and you need to pay for it. Otherwise, the manufacturers are going to be forced to give you something which they would not like to manufacture in their factory. Always think about the formaldehyde. It's very essential for the manufacture of the panels. But it is also essential that when we are using it at home, in offices, with greater global warming, more and more offices and homes are becoming central AC. The air, ambient air quality requires to be maintained at non-hazardous levels. So the emissions have to be controlled, and for that at least you, if not go for E0 or F4 star, at least insist on an even class of formaldehyde containment. Sustainability of the panel sources is yet another aspect. You have to make sure that whatever is the supplier, he is at least having a sustainable certification for longevity. Sometime back we talked about a single supplier episode or tie-up, but that supplier must be sustainable on the forestry part of it, who is the raw material supplier for it. Any questions? I'm available. This is my email. Somebody wants to look at the big range of samples after the tea break, you can come and have a look. And with that, I am open to questions. Any particle board or MDF, if it is done well, and done well in the meaning your edge bending is perfectly fine with no air gaps for water seepage into the board, you don't have to be worried about anything. Pre-laminated particle board or MDF will just live as much or even longer than plywood if it is faulty free. There is no permeability of water from the surface. It is covered with melamine. The edges you may either use an ABS or PVC, which again is water repellent or resistant or proof. The only weak point in the whole system is your glue line. If your glue line is perfect, then you can be least assured that your furniture will stay for the next 20 years, if not more. Excellent. Absolutely no issues with the screw holding. Remember, the particle board and MDF is an engineered material. So if at all you think that it's a flat pack furniture and has to be reassembled at site several times, please use the proper apparatus for it. Inserts what are available in the market, and you will never have any problem with it. Any engineered wood does not have the spring back or the elasticity that of the natural timber. We must accept that and use the adequate inserts for repetitive screwing and unscrewing. If it is just what we call as the virgin screw, and MDF and particle board will hold the screws forever. Again, all engineered panels must be screwed with a fully threaded screw and not a half screw. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vaze, and we'll invite once again Mr. Kashyap onto the stage for the speaker memento presentation.